"Get out of my way, you fool! You're going to stain my suit." Logan Ashford delivered a sharp kick to the pregnant woman. Lucy collapsed to her knees, protecting her belly. White towels scattered across the marble floor. Logan's friends laughed, recording with their phones. Lucy looked up, serene, without tears. She looked directly at Logan. "My husband is coming." The phrase fell like a silent bomb. Something in her calmness made Logan feel uneasy for the first time. Dozens of hotel guests watched the scene from a distance. Some murmured indignantly, but no one moved to help. Others discreetly pulled out their phones, already anticipating the millions of views this video would get on social media. Slowly, with a dignity that contrasted brutally with the situation, Lucy stood up, gathered the towels one by one, and walked away calmly. Her right hand never left the protection of her belly, leaving behind her a silence charged with questions. What no one knew was who that woman's husband really was, and the secret that would make the entire Ashford family tremble. If this story already touched your heart in this first minute, subscribe to the channel. Here you'll find stories that heal, inspire, and make you believe in human goodness again. 3 hours later, the video was already circulating on all social media platforms. The Ashford family had built their empire over 40 years. Richard Ashford, Logan's father, controlled a chain of luxury hotels, shopping centers, and real estate developments throughout North America. His fortune was estimated at $200 million, and his political influence reached the highest spheres of government. Logan had grown up in that world of absolute privilege. He had never worked a day in his life. His only responsibilities were spending the family money on sports cars, extravagant trips, and parties on private yachts. At 22, he had already been expelled from 3 universities for drug and violence scandals. His younger sister, Victoria, 19 years old, followed the same pattern of behavior. Both siblings saw domestic employees, waiters, and workers from their companies as inferior beings, disposable objects that existed solely to serve them. Lucy Harper had arrived at the Golden Pearl restaurant only 2 months ago, when her previous job at a veterinary clinic no longer allowed her to stand for long hours. She needed the money. Her husband had to be away for work, and she had to support the family until his return. She was a 25-year-old woman with nursing studies that she had to abandon due to lack of financial resources. Her natural beauty didn't need expensive makeup or designer dresses. She had that quiet elegance of people who have faced difficulties without losing their kindness. At 11 at night, when Lucy arrived at her small apartment, she found her phone full of messages. Friends, neighbors, even strangers sent her screenshots of the viral video. Pregnant woman kicked by millionaire at luxury restaurant. Businessman's son brutally assaults pregnant woman. The arrogance of the rich has no limits. The video had reached 2 million views in just 3 hours. Comments multiplied by thousands. Indignation, rage, calls for justice. Some users had identified Logan Ashford and began spreading information about the entire family. Lucy turned off her phone and sat on her bed. She caressed her belly tenderly, feeling her baby's small kicks. "Don't worry, my love," she whispered. "Everything will be fine." But in her heart, she knew the storm was just beginning. On the other side of the city, in the Ashford mansion, Richard received call after call from image consultants, lawyers, and business partners. The crisis spread like wildfire. The media had already picked up the story, and by the next morning, it would be on every newscast in the country. Logan, unaware of the magnitude of the disaster he had unleashed, slept soundly in his 500-square-meter bedroom. The sun hadn't finished rising when Richard Ashford's phone started ringing non-stop. "Mr. Ashford, we need to talk urgently," came the tense voice of Michael Sterling, the company's public relations director. "Your son's video has 8 million views. It's trending worldwide on all platforms." Richard sat up in his king-size bed, still not grasping the disaster. Through the windows of his penthouse, he could see the city he had helped build with his shopping centers and apartment towers. "What video are you talking about?" "Turn on the news, sir. Any channel." With the remote in hand, Richard turned on the 75-inch television. The first channel showed the video in slow motion, his son kicking a pregnant woman in the city's most exclusive restaurant. The second channel had 3 commentators analyzing the case as a symbol of social inequality. The third channel showed spontaneous protests in front of Ashford Enterprises' corporate offices. "My God," Richard murmured. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. Business partners canceling contracts. Investors withdrawing funds. High-level employees resigning due to irreconcilable ethical differences. By 7 in the morning, more than 20 administrative employees had submitted their resignations. The domestic service staff didn't show up. The morning news opened with the story, showing interviews with human rights experts and women's protection organizations. Logan woke up to his father's screams. "Logan, get down here immediately!" When he reached the study, he found his father pacing back and forth like a caged lion. The study screens showed graphs of falling company stock prices. In just 6 hours, they had lost 30% of their value on the stock exchange. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Richard roared. 40 years of work destroyed in one night." "Dad, she was just an annoying employee. People will forget in a week." Richard approached his son, and for the first time in 22 years, he screamed at him with all the strength of his lungs, "That annoying employee is costing us $50 million. The study door opened. Michael Sterling entered, accompanied by an older man, about 60 years old, dressed in an impeccable but unassuming suit. His presence commanded immediate respect. "Richard, meet Attorney Salvatierra," Michael said with obvious nervousness. "He represents the assaulted woman." Attorney Salvatierra had the kind of look that seemed to read thoughts. His gray hair was perfectly combed back, and his gray eyes conveyed relentless intelligence. "Mr. Ashford," he said in a calm but firm voice, "I come to present you with a proposal that can save what's left of your reputation." "How much does she want?" Richard asked directly. "It's not about money. My client isn't interested in financial compensation." Logan let out a sarcastic laugh. "So what does she want? Public apologies? A charitable foundation with her name on it?" Salvatierra looked at him with the same expression he would use to observe a particularly unpleasant insect. "She wants real justice. Transformative justice." He opened his leather briefcase and took out a folder. "Your son will work as a volunteer at St. Raphael Community Hospital for the next 2 months, specifically in the maternity ward, helping low-income pregnant women. No privileges, no excuses, no absences." "That's ridiculous," Logan shouted. "I'm not going to clean floors or change dirty sheets." "The alternative," Salvatierra continued without flinching, "is to face a lawsuit for physical assault, grievous bodily harm, psychological damage, and social discrimination. The lawyers have calculated it could be $120 million in compensation, plus legal costs and image damage that is already irreversible." Richard felt the air escape from his lungs. "Furthermore," Salvatierra added, "my client has established a non-negotiable condition. The community service will end only when her baby is born. Until that moment, your son must religiously fulfill his work at the hospital." "And if I accept this, the case closes?" Richard asked. "If your son demonstrates genuine change and fully complies with the conditions, my client will consider not proceeding legally." Logan looked at the scene as if it were a nightmare. "Dad, you can't be seriously considering this." Richard looked at the screens that continued showing his falling stocks, the street protests, the canceled contracts. "I accept," he said with a broken voice. And for the first time in his life, Logan Ashford would have to work. St. Raphael Community Hospital smelled of disinfectant and human suffering. Logan arrived the first day with his latest model BMW, parking it in the area designated for doctors. Security guards approached immediately. "Hey, young man, that space is only for medical staff." "I am medical staff," Logan lied, showing Salvatierra's letter that credited him as a volunteer. "Volunteers park on the street," the guard responded without flinching. First humiliation. The head nurse, Martha Collins, was a 50-year-old woman with 30 years of hospital experience. She had seen hundreds of babies born, had consoled mothers who lost their children, had worked 24-hour shifts. She had no patience for rich kids playing at being volunteers. "You're the famous Logan Ashford," she told him while handing him a faded green uniform. "Here, there are no surnames. Here, there's only work." She assigned him the most basic tasks: cleaning floors, changing sheets, bringing food to patients, emptying trash cans. The first day, Logan refused to clean a bathroom. "I don't touch that," he said with disgust. "Then go home," Martha responded. "But be clear that if you don't comply here, tomorrow you'll be in a court facing $1 million lawsuit." Logan cleaned the bathroom. His hands, accustomed only to holding champagne glasses and sports car steering wheels, filled with blisters from the friction of cleaning chemicals. His back ached from constantly bending over. His feet swelled from standing for 8 hours daily. The other nurses treated him with professional coldness. The doctors ignored him completely. The patients looked at him with curiosity, some recognizing his face from the news. During the first week, Logan tried to use his influence to obtain privileges. "Do you know who I am?" he said to an intern doctor who had asked him to take some samples to the laboratory. "Yes, I know who you are," the doctor responded. "You're the volunteer who's going to take these samples to the laboratory immediately." It didn't work. The second week, he tried to convince his father to end this farce. "Dad, this is inhumane. I'm working like a servant." "You're working like any normal person," Richard responded, "and you're going to continue until that woman's baby is born." It was during the third week when Logan saw Lucy for the first time since the restaurant night. She came for a routine prenatal checkup. She wore a simple maternity dress and comfortable shoes. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail without ostentatious makeup. But she had that natural beauty that needs no adornment. When their eyes met in the hospital hallway, Lucy observed him with a mixture of surprise and curiosity. There was no hatred in her gaze, which deeply disconcerted Logan. "Mrs. Harper," a nurse greeted her. "Come this way, please." Logan watched her as she walked toward the office, instinctively protecting her belly with her hands. The same belly he had endangered with his kick. For the first time, he felt something strange in his chest, an uncomfortable sensation he couldn't identify. During the following days, he began paying attention to the patients' stories. Maria, 16 years old, pregnant and abandoned by her boyfriend. Carmen, with 4 children, whose husband had emigrated to the United States. Rosa, a single mother who worked 12 hours daily as a domestic employee to cover pregnancy expenses. Women who fought with dignity, who protected their babies fiercely, who found strength in adversity. One afternoon, while cleaning the nurse's break area, he found new latex gloves on his temporary desk. There was no note, but he instinctively knew who had left them. Lucy had noticed that his hands were cracking from the cleaning chemicals. That night, Logan stayed awake thinking about the gesture. No one in his life had ever shown that kind of consideration toward him. His parents bought him cars, paid for his trips, gave him money, but no one had noticed his cracked hands. The next day, while organizing medical records, he observed Lucy in the waiting room. She caressed her belly with circular movements, whispering words he couldn't hear from the distance. Her face glowed with that special light that pregnant women have when they talk to the baby they carry inside. For the first time in his life, Logan Ashford felt real guilt. And for the first time, he wondered what kind of person he had been until that moment. The meeting was called in Richard Ashford's main office, on the 42nd floor of the city's tallest corporate building. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view that made people feel as if they dominated the entire world. But that afternoon, Richard didn't feel powerful. Salvatierra arrived accompanied by Lucy, who at 8 months pregnant walked with the graceful slowness of women in the final stages of gestation. She wore a simple but elegant navy blue dress, and her presence filled the office with a quiet dignity that contrasted with the ostentation of the place. "Mr. Ashford," Salvatierra began, "it's time to reveal the whole truth." Richard frowned. What truth? I thought this matter was solely related to the lawsuit. It's related to something much deeper, Salvatierra responded, opening his briefcase. He took out a series of photographs and documents that he spread on the Italian marble table. The first photograph showed a man about 45 years old, dressed in military uniform. He had the same gray eyes as Richard, the same strong facial structure, but his expression conveyed a nobility that Richard had lost decades ago. "Richard, I officially present your sister-in-law, Lucy Harper Ashford." Silence invaded the office like an avalanche. "Lucy is married to your older brother, Matthew Ashford, the brother who broke relations with you 15 years ago because of your way of treating employees and workers." Richard felt the floor move under his feet. "Matthew? Matthew is dead. He died in that military mission in Iraq." "Matthew is alive," Lucy interrupted with a firm voice. "He was on classified missions for 12 years. We couldn't communicate with the family for national security reasons." Salvatierra continued placing documents on the table. "A year ago, Matthew retired from the army with honors. He married Lucy 8 months ago. When they decided to return to reconnect with the family, Matthew learned about the restaurant incident." Richard took one of the photographs. It showed Matthew and Lucy on their wedding day, surrounded by military colleagues and a small, intimate celebration. "Why didn't he contact me directly?" Richard asked with a broken voice. "Because he wanted to see what kind of people you had become," Lucy responded. "Matthew asked me to work at the restaurant for a few weeks to observe how the Ashford family treated humble people." The revelation fell like a hammer. "It was all a test," Lucy continued. "Matthew wanted to know if there was any possibility of family reconciliation." Richard sank into his executive chair. "And my son kicked you. Your son kicked his uncle's pregnant wife, his future cousin, the woman his uncle loves more than his own life." At that moment, the office door opened. A man entered whom Richard hadn't seen in 15 years, but whom he immediately recognized. Matthew Ashford was 45 years old, but he kept himself in excellent physical condition. His military bearing was evident in every movement, but his eyes showed a wisdom and kindness that Richard envied. "Hello, brother," Matthew said with a calm voice. Richard stood up slowly. The two brothers observed each other for long seconds, seeing in the other's face the passage of time and the decisions that had separated them. "Matthew, I thought you were dead. For you, I was dead. Since the day I saw how you treated Maria, the domestic employee who worked in our parents' house for 20 years. Do you remember? You fired her without pension or compensation when she got sick with cancer." Richard closed his eyes. That memory had haunted him for years. That was a mistake. It was a decision that showed who you really were," Matthew responded. "That's why I distanced myself. That's why I broke all contact." He approached Lucy and placed his hand protectively on her belly. "When Lucy told me what happened at the restaurant, my first impulse was to come here and confront your son the way cowards who assault pregnant women are confronted." Richard swallowed. "But my wife convinced me to give him a chance, to see if there was anything salvageable in him." Matthew walked toward the window, observing the city. "During these weeks, I've been observing Logan at the hospital. The reports I receive every day." "You've been watching him?" "I have contacts everywhere, Richard. I know that at first he resisted. I know he tried to use influences. I know he complained and protested." He paused without taking his eyes off the city. "But I also know that yesterday he helped a teenage mother fill out hospital forms. I know that 3 days ago he stayed late helping to clean after an emergency. I know he started treating the nurses with respect." He turned toward Richard. "My nephew is changing. The question is, will it be a genuine change or just an act to get out of trouble?" Lucy stood up with the graceful slowness of pregnant women. "That's why we want to do one last test," she said. "In 2 weeks our baby will be born. We want Logan to be present at the birth, to see the creature he endangered being born. to truly understand the magnitude of what he did. And after that, Matthew added, we'll decide if there's any possibility of family reconciliation. Richard looked at his older brother with a mixture of admiration and shame. And if Logan doesn't really change? Matthew approached the table and collected the photographs. Then I will have confirmed that the Ashford family has no possible redemption, and will leave forever. When they left the office, Richard remained alone in front of the panoramic windows, seeing the city he had helped build with money but without heart. For the first time in decades, he felt real fear of losing something he couldn't buy, the possibility of getting his brother back. Logan's 6th week at the hospital began differently. He had arrived early, even before the morning shift nurses. His hands, now calloused from work, carefully prepared the day's supplies. He no longer complained about the faded uniform, nor about the disinfectant smell that had become familiar. That morning, an emergency arrived. An 18-year-old woman in premature labor. Her name was Andrea, and she had arrived alone, without money for medical expenses, terrified and crying. "I can't pay," she repeated between sobs. "My boyfriend left me when he found out about the pregnancy. My family threw me out of the house." Dr. Ramirez, a 50-year-old man known for his bad temper, approached impatiently. "If you can't pay, go to the public hospital. We don't do charity here." Logan watched the scene from the hallway. Something inside him ignited like a spring. "Dr. Ramirez," he approached with determination. "I'll take care of Andrea's expenses." The doctor looked at him with surprise. "You, a volunteer, is going to pay a stranger's medical expenses?" "Yes," Logan responded without hesitation. "And if you have any problem with that, you can speak with the hospital administration." It was the first time Logan used his family influence to help someone else, not to benefit himself. Andrea looked at him with eyes full of grateful tears. "I don't know how to thank you." "Don't thank me for anything. Just focus on your baby being born healthy." During the following hours, Logan stayed accompanying Andrea during labor. He held her hand when contractions intensified, brought her water when she was thirsty, spoke words of encouragement when fear threatened to consume her. When the baby was born, a healthy boy weighing 6 pounds and 3 ounces, Logan felt an emotion he had never experienced. Seeing that small life he had helped protect filled him with a deeper satisfaction than any sports car or luxury trip. "What are you going to name him?" he asked Andrea while she cradled the newborn. "Andrew," she responded, "like the angel who helped me when I needed it most." Logan walked away from the room with moist eyes. In the hallway, he met Martha Collins, the head nurse who had treated him harshly during the first weeks. "You did something good today, boy," she told him with a smile she hadn't shown before. "That baby has a chance to live thanks to you." "I just did what any decent person would do." "No, Logan, not any person. During my 30 years here, I've seen many people with money who never lifted a finger to help anyone." That afternoon, while Logan organized medical records, Lucy arrived for her last checkup before delivery. Her belly was at its maximum, and she walked with the slowness typical of the final weeks of pregnancy. When she passed by the desk where he worked, she stopped. "I heard what you did today with Andrea," she said in a soft voice. Logan looked up, expecting to find sarcasm or distrust. Instead, he found something resembling approval. "She needed help." "Yes, she did. And you gave it to her without expecting anything in return." Lucy stood by the desk, caressing her belly with circular movements. "I want you to know something, Logan. During these weeks I've been watching you. At first I expected it to be just a temporary act." She paused, searching for the right words. "But I've seen how you treat patients. I've seen how you stay after your shift when there are emergencies. I've seen how you look at newborn babies as if it were the first time you understand what life means." Logan felt a knot in his throat. "Lucy, what I did to you that night, I can't forgive what you did," she interrupted him firmly. "That kick could have killed my baby. It could have killed me." Silence stretched between them like an abyss. "But I can trust in what you're starting to become," she continued. And that's more important than forgiveness. She walked away toward the office, leaving Logan with those words that would resonate in his mind for days. 3 days later, at 2 in the morning, the emergency alarm sounded at the hospital. Lucy had arrived in labor. Logan was finishing his night shift when he saw Matthew running through the hallways, carrying his wife in his arms. The expression of concern on the ex-military man's face was that of a man who had faced enemy bullets, but never something as terrifying as seeing the woman he loved suffer. "Where's the doctor?" Matthew shouted. "My wife is bleeding." The on-call doctor appeared immediately, followed by a team of nurses. Logan watched from a distance, feeling useless but unable to walk away. "It's a minor complication," the doctor explained after examining Lucy. "The baby is coming in the wrong position, but we can handle it. We need to prepare her for emergency surgery." During the following 2 hours, Matthew paced the hallways like a caged lion. His hands trembled slightly, the only external sign of his internal terror. Logan approached after an hour of watching him suffer. "Sir, Uncle," he corrected himself. Can I accompany you?" Matthew looked at him with surprise. "You don't have to do this, Logan." "Yes, I do. That woman, her baby, I put them in danger once. I need to be here until I know they're okay." The two men sat in the uncomfortable plastic chairs of the waiting room. Silence stretched between them, charged with 15 years of family distance and 6 weeks of transformation. "When you were a child," Matthew began suddenly, "you used to follow me everywhere. You said you wanted to be military like me." Logan smiled sadly. "I remember that. Do you know why I really distanced myself from the family?" Logan shook his head. "Because I saw what money was doing to all of you. I saw how your father treated employees like objects. I saw how your mother spoke disparagingly of poor people. I saw how you and Victoria grew up believing you were superior to other human beings just for being born with privileges." Matthew leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "In the Army, I learned that a person's true worth isn't measured by what they have, but by what they're willing to sacrifice for others. Like you sacrificed your family relationship for your principles. Like you're sacrificing your comfort to serve women you once considered inferior." At that moment, the doctor came out, still with the surgical mask hanging from his neck. "Mr. Ashford, you have a beautiful and healthy son. Your wife is perfectly fine." Matthew collapsed into the chair, releasing all the accumulated tension in a deep sigh. "Can I see them?" "Of course. They're in room 304. When they headed toward the room, Matthew stopped. "Logan, I want you to meet your cousin." They entered together the room where Lucy, though exhausted, glowed with that special light of new mothers. In her arms, she held a small bundle wrapped in a blue blanket. "Matthew," Lucy whispered, "look how beautiful he is." Matthew approached the bed and kissed his wife's forehead with a tenderness that made Logan feel a pang of envy. He had never seen such pure and protective love. "What are we going to name him?" Matthew asked. "Gabriel," Lucy responded. "Like the archangel who protects families." Logan stood by the door, observing the scene. That baby, now sleeping peacefully in his mother's arms, had been in mortal danger because of him. That woman who radiated maternal happiness had suffered humiliation and terror because of his arrogance. "Logan," Lucy called him. "Come closer." He approached slowly, as if it were sacred ground. "Do you want to hold him?" I don't know if I should." "I want you to," she insisted. "I want you to feel the weight of the life you helped protect during these weeks." With trembling hands, Logan took baby Gabriel in his arms. The child was so small, so fragile, so perfectly formed. His little fingers instinctively closed around Logan's index finger. In that moment, something definitively broke inside young Ashford. All the arrogance, all the contempt, all the coldness that had characterized his 22 years of life crumbled like sand castles. He began to cry. It wasn't the manipulative crying of a rich child who didn't get what he wanted. It was the deep and liberating crying of a man who finally understood the magnitude of his mistakes and the beauty of redemption. "I'm sorry," he whispered, looking alternately at the baby, Lucy, and Matthew. "I'm so very sorry." "We know," Matthew responded, placing a hand on his nephew's shoulder. "And now that you truly feel it, we can start being a family again." Outside, dawn painted the sky in golden colors, as if the whole world was celebrating Gabriel's birth and Logan's rebirth. 5 years later, the Ashford family house garden had changed completely. Where there had once been ostentatious marble statues, now fruit trees grew that neighborhood children could enjoy. Where there had once been perfectly cut grass that no one could step on, now there was a playground where Gabriel and other children played every afternoon. Logan, now 27 years old, gently pushed the swing where his cousin Gabriel laughed with the pure joy of 5-year-olds. The child had inherited the Ashford family's gray eyes, but had his mother's kind smile. "Uncle Leo, will you tell me again the story of when you worked at the hospital?" Gabriel asked with that infinite curiosity of children. "Again? I've already told it to you 1,000 times. But I like it, especially the part where you helped Andrea's baby be born." Logan smiled. Andrea and her son Andrew, now 5 years old too, had become part of the extended family. Andrew studied at the private school that the Ashfords had converted into an institution with full scholarships for low-income children. "Okay, but afterward you have to help me prepare dinner." From the house terrace, Lucy observed the scene while caressing her belly. She was pregnant again, expecting a girl who would be named Hope. This time, Logan had been the first to offer to help with everything she needed during pregnancy. Matthew approached from behind and hugged her, placing his hands over hers. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About how strange life is. 5 years ago, I never would have imagined we'd have such a beautiful family, nor that my brother would become the person he is now." Richard Ashford had taken early retirement after his son's transformation. He no longer ran the business empire with an iron fist. Instead, he had established a foundation that offered dignified work and medical insurance to single mothers. He spent his days teaching Gabriel to fish in the small pond he had built in the garden. Victoria, Logan's younger sister, had also experienced her own transformation. She now ran a shelter for pregnant women in vulnerable situations, inspired by the change she had seen in her older brother. "Dad, can I stay for dinner?" Logan asked, approaching the terrace with Gabriel's hand in his. "This is your home, son. You can always stay." But both knew that Logan had his own apartment near the hospital where he now worked as volunteer coordinator. He had finished his nursing studies and specialized in neonatal care. His job was to help other privileged young people discover the value of social service. While they prepared dinner together, Gabriel animatedly told about his day at kindergarten. He had inherited his mother's ease in making friends and his father's quiet determination. "Uncle Leo, is it true that you used to be bad?" he asked suddenly, with that brutal honesty of children. Logan stopped cutting vegetables and crouched to be at his cousin's height. "Yes, Gabriel, I used to be very bad. I hurt your mom when she was pregnant with you. But you're not bad anymore? I try to be good every day. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. But you help me remember why it's worth trying." Gabriel reflected for a moment with the seriousness of wise children. "Mom says people can change if they really want to. Your mom is very smart. And she says you changed because you learned to love." Logan felt a knot in his throat. After 5 years, Gabriel's words could still move him to tears. "Do you love me, Uncle Leo?" "I love you more than my own life, Gabriel." "Then that's why you're good now." Dinner passed with laughter, work anecdotes, weekend plans. Matthew told stories from his military days, edited for child audience. Lucy described advances at the shelter. Richard listened attentively, participating when he could contribute something useful. When it was time to put Gabriel to bed, the whole family participated in the ritual. Logan read him a story. Matthew taught him a military lullaby. Lucy gave him a goodnight kiss, and Richard promised to take him fishing the next day. "Good night, family," Gabriel whispered before closing his eyes. While the adults remained on the terrace, sharing coffee and conversation, Logan observed the stars shining over the city. 5 years ago, he had never noticed the stars. He was too busy looking at himself. "Do you know what's strangest about all this?" he said to Matthew. "What?" "That I'm happier now, working at the hospital and living on my salary, than when I had unlimited credit cards and sports cars. That's because now you understand the difference between price and value." "What's the difference?" Matthew pointed toward the window where Gabriel slept peacefully. "Price is what you pay for something. Value is what you get in return. That child has no price, but his value is infinite." Logan nodded, understanding. Like forgiveness, like true love, like second chances. When they said goodbye that night, Logan drove slowly toward his apartment. At a red light, he saw a young woman walking down the street with difficulty. She was pregnant and seemed lost. Without hesitation, he got out of the car. "Excuse me, miss. Do you need help?" The woman looked at him with initial distrust, but something in Logan's eyes reassured her. "I'm looking for St. Raphael Hospital. They told me they treat emergencies regardless of whether you can pay." "I work there. I can take you if you'd like." "Really?" "Of course. Get in. I'll take you immediately." During the trip to the hospital, Logan thought about all the times he had passed by people who needed help without even seeing them. He thought about the night he kicked Lucy and how that terrible action had triggered the most important transformation of his life. He thought about Gabriel sleeping peacefully in his bed, about Lucy expecting her second daughter, about Matthew who had had the wisdom to offer redemption instead of revenge. He thought about Andrea and her son Andrew, about the dozens of mothers he had helped during these 5 years, about the babies he had seen born. When they arrived at the hospital, he helped the pregnant woman register and made sure she received immediate attention. When he returned to his car, he found a note under the windshield. "Thank you for proving that angels still exist on earth. Maria Fernanda." Logan kept the note in his wallet, next to the first photograph taken of him holding newborn Gabriel. That night, before sleeping, he wrote in the diary he had started keeping after his transformation. "Dear future me, today Gabriel asked me if I used to be bad. I told him the truth. But I also understood something important. I wasn't really bad, just lost. I had confused having privileges with being superior. I had confused power with strength. I had confused price with value. Now I know that true strength lies in protecting the vulnerable, that true wealth lies in the love you give and receive, that true superiority lies in serving others. Tomorrow will be another day to be better. Another day to honor the second chance I was given. Another day to prove that people can change if they really want to. Gabriel is right. I changed because I learned to love, and every day that passes, I love more. Good night, world. Thank you for teaching me that it's never too late to be reborn." In the silence of the night, somewhere in the city, a pregnant woman slept peacefully in a hospital bed, knowing she had found help when she needed it most. In a family home that had learned to be a home, a 5-year-old boy dreamed of stories of redemption and second chances. And in the heart of a man who had discovered the value of humility, grew every day the certainty that there are mistakes that are paid for with money. But there are others that can only be healed with forgiveness and with love. This story has come to its end, but your transformation story might just be beginning. Have you ever lived through a forgiveness experience that completely changed your life? Do you know someone who found their best version after making a big mistake? Have you witnessed how true love can transform even the most lost people? We all have moments in our lives where we can choose to be like the Logan from the restaurant or like the Logan from the hospital. Moments where we can choose between arrogance and humility, between contempt and compassion, between hurting and healing. If this story touched something deep in your heart, if it reminded you that it's never too late to change, if it inspired you to be kinder to people who are in difficult situations, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that heal the soul and remind us of the beauty of humanity. Every week, we bring real stories of transformation, forgiveness, and second chances. And please, leave us a comment telling us from which country you're watching us. We love knowing that these stories travel around the world, uniting hearts and reminding us that, regardless of our language or culture, we all have the same capacity to love, forgive, and transform. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money we have in the bank. What really matters is how much love we have in our hearts and how much good we're capable of doing in the world. Until the next story, may you have a day full of blessings and opportunities to be the best version of yourself. With love and hope, your Healing Stories family.